Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at PTV World, and with me are Farrukh, Pitafi and Faisal. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at the important decision that was taken by the Apex Committee meeting earlier with reference to the illegal foreign nationals residing in Pakistan, for which the deadline of 31st October was given. And these illegal foreign nationals also included 1.7 million Afghan nationals as well, who were residing illegally in Pakistan. And they were given this deadline to be deported to another country with reference to, of course, the kind of illegal activity that was going on within Pakistan. And so to curb the criminal and illegal activities within the country, this decision was taken in light of Pakistan's security. However, there's, of course, a lot of concern coming in from various quarters, including from Afghanistan, the United Nations bodies, and others urging the authorities to reconsider this decision and consider the plight of the illegal Afghan nationals within the country who have lived in Pakistan for a large period of time. This is important, especially given how previously also in light of the large number of protests that have been coming forward, not just from within Pakistan but elsewhere as well. And then, of course, a statement coming in from the United Nations as well, to which the Foreign Office has responded and clarified that whatever decision that has been taken is in line with the domestic laws of the country and does not violate any international norms or traditions. And this is something that is being carried out, keeping all of this in mind. At the same time, of course, we have also seen that the decisions have also come forward with regards to carrying out a plan with reference to deportation after the expiration of the deadline, and exactly how that's going to be done has also been clarified by the caretaker setup. That's going to be carried out in phases, which of course also buys more time for the people for voluntary repatriation to their respective countries. We've also seen different leaders from across the world, including the UK and the US, also meeting with the foreign minister and discussing various issues with regards to the repatriation of those Afghan nationals that are eligible to be shifted to the respective countries. Exactly what is going to be the circumstances under which all of this is going to happen, especially with reference to holding centers being clarified and being allocated for the places where the foreign nationals are going to be held till their deportation is actually complete, with priority given to those with valid travel documents, is also going to be important, especially in terms of how the coordination and execution of this entire plan is actually going to move forward, especially given the way that the authorities in place, both civil and military, are going to be taking control of things and making sure that whatever is done in a humane manner and that nobody's rights are disrespected. So we're going to be taking a look at all of this in our segment today and try and understand what's going on, why is it happening, and perhaps also debunking some myths that seem to be circulating around. Of course, Farrukh and Faisal are with me in the studios. We've also been joined online by Brigadier Retired Mr. Waqar, who's a senior analyst, and Mr. Abid Latif, Sindhu, who's also a senior analyst. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of the discussion and joining me on the debate tonight. Brigadier Waqar, let me start with you with reference to what is going on and the way that this decision was actually taken and the rationale behind it as well. We, of course, know that it's very important for Pakistan to uphold its security, and there has been, of course, a lot of concerns with regards to illegal activities within the country, many of which has been linked back to the Afghan refugees in the country. And so it's important also with reference to the illegal foreign nationals residing in Pakistan that are not just restricted to Afghan nationality but others as well, to making sure that they are actually shifted outside of the country. But in terms of how this decision was taken and how this deadline was given and how exactly it is being carried out, can you help us understand exactly what sort of push towards the urgency for this particular decision and the kind of time frame that was given? Was that enough in terms of the kind of problems or hindrances that many are pointing towards at the moment?
Thank you, Sana. I think in terms of warning time, it was enough. Actually, I would say
Okay.
they had decades of warning time. And if you look at Afghanistan, there have been two superpower interventions. The Soviet one and the backlog is about 30 lakh or 3 million. which are having some documents, so there's no problem with them. So they are staying here for last, I would say, 45 years. So it's their third generation now. And then you have the second wave mainly came when the American exited. So all told, it's about 17 and a half, as you mentioned, or
Hmm.
1.75 million, which are illegal. Now there was a promise made by international community that 6 to 7 lakh of them were supposed to be absorbed by North America and Europe. At time people don't even discuss it because there were four elite changes. If you look at changes in last 3 decades, and the last one was when the Taliban came in. So there was people in government, in police, in army, in working with NGOs, working with NATO. So basically, it is that lot. Which also had some money. So they were promised they come to Pakistan, stay for 3 months, 4 months. Visas will be processed, and they will then be shipped to Europe or North America and maybe some Middle Eastern countries. That has not happened. It's, I think, a couple of thousands out of 700,000. For Europe, it was 2,75,000. Probably they have repatriated 275, which is very, very absurd. So that is, I think, one is the perspective to understand that Pakistan has been victim of circumstances. Neither the superpowers came on our invitation, nor we are supposed to look after their backlog. But anyway, I think Pakistan provided, I think, for their brothers and sisters the space, and we don't have problem with the 30 lakh or 3 billion. Now we come to why this stereotyping of a pushback or people being sent. Who
Hmm.
is supposed to have the onus to settle these, let's say, 17 lakh people? Should be the one government. Should be very happy the people are coming back. The economy is doing well. The currency, I heard, is doing well. So why not to basically have an environment less fear? Basically, there is an environment of fear because there'll be chances of reprisals. And I think even within Afghanistan, they have set up three camps. Out of that, one is at Spin Boldak, the other is, I think, Nangarhar. Because these guys were going back. Their lands, the properties have also been occupied by people, in, let's say, Kabul or Kandahar, wherever. And then I think comes another example is of Iran and Turkey. How did they manage their refugees? Iran repatriated 12 lakh, 1.2 million in last 2 years. There was no hue and cry, no international community, and mind you, these were kept in the camps. So I think it's only in terms of Pakistan that there are certain internal, I would say, people who have their agendas related to vote bank, especially in KP and Balochistan, would like to exploit. Like I think we heard that there was a petition filed in Supreme Court to by some sub-nationalist groups to stop this action. It's very much, I think, within the law, and people should understand that's need of the hour. In my calculation, the total load in terms of finances is $5 billion for these 17 and a half lakh rupees. Now you work it out based on UNHCR figures. This is the lowest figure that a country would spend on refugees. In case of Germany, it could have been like $25 billion. In case of Turkey, it could be $10 billion for that much population. For Pakistan, working at the lowest, let's say, site, is $5 billion we are spending on these illegal immigrants. So I think it's a very wise decision. There'll be challenges, but the state has to go with it.
All right. Abisab, the situation, especially in terms of the Afghan nationals, is important. It's not just, of course, about what the Afghan authorities or the Taliban regime there is saying, but also in terms of whether or not, when we take a look at these foreign nationals that have been in the country for a while, and the way that we have seen different reports coming in or different people talking about how it is being the parallels that are being drawn are and the way that it's being communicated is that Pakistan perhaps is uprooting them or is moving towards forced expulsions, and I want you to clarify then how exactly is the real situation and any different or similar to the kind of perception that perhaps is being circulated as to what's really happening, because the concerns that are being raised from different quarters are pointing towards something horrible that is being done to the Afghan nationals. Is that really the case?
Thank you for inviting me. Actually, that is the perception which is being built or which is being, perpetrated through different mediums is actually not correct. In
Okay.
fact, Pakistan has earlier also tried for the 5 times to send these refugees back to their country. And as we know, that by the definition of a refugee is a person who is being upstick from the country due to the circumstances and uh, due to the events which are beyond the control of any individual of a state. So they cross over, they take a refuge in another country, and then they are under the system of a sustenance by international donors or by the host country. And then when the situation improves, they're supposed to go back. That is the difference between a refugee and a migrant. And if we take this, as far as we also know that there is a UN Convention of 1951. There is also a UN Convention of 1967. Although Pakistan is not a signatory to that, but Pakistan is a signatory to a lot of other conventions which are based on the human rights, which are based on the concept of helping people, on the security and sustenance and livelihood of a person and the self-respect of a person. So, taking all of this in account, if we say that Pakistan is never trying to overboard in a way that Pakistan is, adamant to send them back and give them a push without any social or economic concerns or without any humanitarian grounds, I think that is not correct. Pakistan, at this moment of the time, once our interior minister has already said that our security situation, the metrics which are being played here time and again, we have seen the first wave of the war on terror, we have seen the second wave. It is almost the addendum to the second wave that we are seeing another surge. So that is linked to those grounds, those fifth columnists, those soft areas which are being developed in our cities, in our towns, and they're linked, unfortunately, to this segment of the society, this element of the Afghan diaspora, which is not registered, which has not followed the system of earlier request by the state of Pakistan. I remember that in 2005, a complete exercise was undertaken in which the proof of registration concept was given, and a couple of thousands of Afghans were registered. Then in 2017, again, the Afghan citizen cards were issued, and that was clearly mandated that once the situation will be of the domain and they'll be able to sustain themselves, or their country is sort of economically in a position to take them back, they'll be moving back to their native country. So I think Pakistan has done its bit. This is the only country, as Brigadier Saab was saying, Pakistan is the only country which has not only kept these people at the border camps under the total age of UNHCR. Rather, Pakistan is the only country which has opened its border, given them all the opportunity to take part in the economic activities, to have their sustenance here, to live like a Pakistani, despite the fact that they never had those credentials. So taking this in consideration, I think Pakistan has done a lot for all these decades, and this is now the right thing to tell them, to request them to go back to their native country.
All right. Faisal, when we take a look at what's going on at the moment, of course, the deadline has expired, and we've seen the caretaker setup speak about how the deportation is going to begin in phases. And there's also the concerns with regards to exactly how this is going to happen, given also that holding centers are being established for temporary placements of these Afghan nationals before they're actually sent to their respective countries. And we've also seen that a lot of the kind of reports that have been coming in point towards how distressed these Afghan nationals actually are in that. And I want to then understand how is it that with what our analysts have also spoken about in terms of the context, or in terms of the reasoning behind what's going on, are we then able to move forward in a way that the people of Pakistan, and also these Afghan nationals, and the people also residing in Afghanistan understand what's going on and don't really develop sort of a resentment towards the country? Do you think that there is resentment, especially from Afghanistan?
Sana, yes, of course there is resentment from the other side as well, of course the Afghan side. We have to understand one thing, that so many of these illegal immigrants I mean, our system was so flexible for them that they even created their own businesses, their own, shadow houses as well, on somebody else's name or whatever it was. But they have been doing it within Pakistan, and that's how I always maintain.
Sorry, but is that flexibility of the system or a flaw of the system?
Flaw of the system, I must say, but of course to them it is flexibility, which they have been facilitating themselves for it. And here, Sana, the important point is, how do the other countries deal with the illegal immigrants? That's what matters. And of course, I went through one of the statements by UN High Commissioner Filippo Grandi. He actually said that it might create a humanitarian crisis. Then I would counter question that if he believes that, and if he must have known it before as well, that somehow Pakistan would come to a position where Pakistan has to decide itself, of course, to look after Pakistan's security, internal security and economy as well. Mind you, it's a very odd kind of burden on Pakistan's economy, because there is an economy which is obviously unnoticed, because illegals, they are living within Pakistan, and of course they are doing lots of things which are unknown to, because of the system, it has flaws. They are unknown to the government itself or state itself. So of course, there are few of them, they are also involved in terrorist activities. So all of these things, of course, Pakistan has to look after itself first, rather than looking after somebody else. Obviously, the illegal immigrants, Pakistan has to sort them out. And here, when UN High Commissioner says this, then I believe as soon as it had triggered, since the obviously Taliban took over, that was the point when they were supposed, UNHCR was supposed to obviously talk with Pakistan's government at that time and come up with a solution. I mean, I know with the other countries, of course, they have incentive-based repatriations, which of course UNHCR has a lot to do with it. Pakistan state, I mean UNHCR, it would have sat with Pakistan state and of course derive a sort of policy in which the repatriation could be made with full of incentives, so that people themselves, they are thinking about moving back to their country, because it was only the peace they required in their country. That is why they were in Pakistan, because they felt that it was peaceful to live here at that time. I'm not just talking about the illegal immigrants, I'm talking about the other immigrants as well. As Brigadier Waqar has pointed out very fine, that there are others as well. Of course, they are sort of an extra burden on Pakistan's economy at the same time. So one by one, everyone had to go back, and somehow the world, it needs to help out Pakistan, because Pakistan's capacity of obviously repatriation process, or keeping them here for a longer time, it's not of that standard which can be considered as Pakistan on its own can do everything. I mean, if they can come here, all of the countries, more than 20 countries can come our next door and wage a war and of course force them to go elsewhere. Why can't they come here to help them out to go back to their countries now? I mean, the mess they have created here, after that, after they have left, they never look back. It's like it takes me to a speech which was made by Hillary Clinton. Once she said that, oh, we left Pakistan, we left Mujahideen and ISI with the Mujahideen having all of the stingers, and of course we left the region and we never looked back. And of course, after that, whatever happened, we all know, because nobody looked back at Afghanistan, and that is how the menace, it became a larger scale menace, which I mean the whole world, it was affected by. And now once more they have just simply left Afghanistan and the region, and they don't look back. I mean, here is Pakistan is simply securing itself, because that's how the governments and the state should react to these kind of situations.
Right, I
mean,
understand
earlier it's been highlighted about the Iranians as well. Iranians been very smart. Of course, they created different zones where they kept them, and when it was the time, of course, they sent them back. This is what Pakistan is doing now. I mean, it should have been done long ago, but
right.
now
And I want to talk a bit more about the time frame as well, Farrukh, especially given the kind of behavior, perhaps, or policies or stance that Pakistan has had with refugees in the country to where we stand today. I know our analysts also spoke about how it was enough time and decades have been given, but has it really been given in terms of the action that is being taken today? Because it seems that if you look at the time frame since the Apex Committee decision to the actual deadline, that wasn't very long, and I don't know if we can be counting time before that. And secondly, the way in which the activities of deportation are actually going to begin from tomorrow, I believe. What exactly is the plan in place in terms of doing that? I understand that they're holding centers and how it's going to happen, but in terms of checking the documents, in terms of verifying that it is in fact the illegal foreign nationals and not the legal ones that are being affected, and that in the way that it's happening also nobody's hurt, nobody's disrespected. Is that sort of coordination or plan in place, and you think that with the numbers that we're talking about, it can be a smooth process?
Right. Thank you very much, Sana, for the opportunity. In order to answer your question regarding timeline, one has to actually look at how much time does it take many Afghans to visit Pakistan. I think there's usually 70,000 influx of 70,000 people across the border daily. It can be more than that, it can be slightly less than that, but that is not a small number. It is a border that is traversed, that is crossed every day by many, and they come and they go. Right now what we are talking about is not legal refugees. Refugees is a very sacrosanct term, where you first have to seek refuge and then the authorities have to give you the refuge, right? Try doing that, go to the US and say that I'm illegally entering a refugee and see what happens, right? Now let me ask you to partake, and everybody who's watching this program right now, to partake a thought experiment. And that thought experiment is very simple. Just within a couple of days, we are meeting with IMF. Just go to IMF and say that this year, especially in this quarter, kindly write off our 5% of our fiscal deficit, because we don't know how much are we going to spend on the illegal immigrants. And let's see what exactly, how the flexibility, how much flexibility does IMF show. Now then go to FATF and tell them that if any cross-border activities perpetrated by an Afghan national who doesn't have documents, then we cannot be answerable for that, and let us ask how FATF actually behaves, right? Pakistan so far might have done many things which are not great, which people are complaining about, even though I haven't seen any evidence. I haven't seen any evidence of children being separated from their families like the US. I'm not seeing anybody being fed to Rwanda. Even though you came from Asia, you are being sent to Rwanda like UK did. I haven't seen any tall, humongous, permanent camps where people are interned indefinitely like Australia. I'm not talking about a situation like India, where they are asking their own citizens to prove their identity, their nationality, otherwise they are going to be actually taken to ghettos. I'm just saying that you are kindly to return to the country whence you came, right? Especially because you don't have any papers. If you get papers, please come back again.
Sure.
And we will be very, a gracious host, because we are gracious hosts, Sarah, and that bit is known. Now, the execution part, I do have some worries about how it can be executed, right? Remember that Pakistan has 3 tiers of governance, And nobody says that the country is not, it doesn't have any corruption at all. Nobody says that there can't be any negative aspect to execution. So what are we trying to do? Either we go to Supreme Court asking the government to, requesting the court to halt the entire process, or then we actually do nothing. Why not actually ask the authorities to create some mechanism where if there is an abuse by some lolling, that can be reported and then some kind of recourse be taken, right? For example, if you cannot create immigration courts, especially at the lower level, you should have them at 3 tiers. Then you can always ask government to create positions of ombudsmen who can, for example, if somebody who has legal documents, if a policeman goes to him and says that, give me so much money, otherwise I'm going to declare you an illegal immigrant, at least they should have a recourse, right? But nobody is talking about that, because that is not the kind of grandstanding that is needed. I don't want to unload on any of the UN bodies. I think they are great institutions and they are doing great things in the world. No matter how miserably they might have failed in Gaza, they at least keep on raising their voice, right? But here my only concern is that this political grandstanding and manipulation makes me think that even Afghan Taliban have better international PR than Pakistan, and we have to worry about that, because this kind of manipulation, this kind of negative projection really reflects poorly on the merits of international justice system, international systems, institutions, and international media.
Yeah, absolutely. Brigadier Waqar, the concern of papers is also important in terms of how exactly is it obtained or verified that those that we are counting as illegal foreign nationals are actually illegal in terms of their involvement in illegal activities, or in terms of their presence in fact being illegal because of something of their own doing, rather than a result of the process or any other reason for which they were unable to obtain the relevant documents required. Is this sort of verification being done in terms of who exactly is that illegal foreign national in the country that is there that is there because illegally because of their own stance, and not because of some sort of error at the part or delay in the part of actually issuing them the relevant documents that they did in fact try to obtain?
I think it's a relevant question, but in terms of percentage, I think let's say misuse of identity or papers, I think it will be very less, it will be very meager. Now just let me put the things in correct perspective. As far as Pakistan's data system, which is run by another, is one of the best, mind you, and we are some of the fewer countries who have almost record of everybody. Even through biometric, you can check it. The other is the Afghans, which are already there, mainly. Is also so many other nationalities, since 90% is Afghans, who were initially, let's say, displaced, and they are there. Those 3 million. There's no problem, and I think a good record exists. It's mainly it's 1.7 million illegal immigrants which basically followed, or which were, there were also areas being captured by Taliban and they were rolling up. So there were a lot of districts which were being emptied and people were running out. So I would say it was 1 or 2 years before the American exit, and then it was at peak when the American exit took place. So, so it means that we precisely know that who all are, let's say, illegal. And then is, of course, the current data is not collected in past 5 months or something. I think it was 2021, 22 second half that it started. So process is already taken. So I think they precisely, that's why.
Brigadier Waqar, what I wanted to understand was, and you started off by saying that it would be a meager percentage that does fall in that category. But even if it is one person, it would be unfair for this process to be inflicted upon them. So I want to understand, are we absolutely sure and confident that when we say 1.7 million of illegal Afghan nationals, we actually mean 1.7 illegal Afghan nationals, and there is nobody else who is being treated unfairly because of this?
Yeah, I think you're right. The concern is there, but I think I'll go with the Honorable Farrukh Pitafi Saab, because he mentioned that when it's application of international law on terrorism and financing, it's so watertight. They expect, that we have 1.7 million illegal immigrants, but still they expect, everything to be hunky dory and watertight and nothing leaking from Pakistan. Whereas on the other side, it's become a Pakistan-Afghanistan mafia corridorized, and there are people within Pakistan who exploit it. So that's why I think the people who are backers and those who are conniving will also be taken to task. Now, if you look at the dollar smuggling, drug mafia, commodities, sugar, then artificial manure, huge amount of smuggling takes place. But of course, if the Afghan nationals are involved, then it's the base is, of course, provided by our own people. That's why the law is going to come. I'll just highlight India. Uh, it is surprising that they are the ones who are making hue and hue and cry, whereas they totally have 15,000 Afghan refugees, and they are also, I think, very disturbed because of the system. And they brought a law in 2019, 2020, which actually disallowed any Muslims as to be accepted by India as immigrants. Just look at the, I would say, the hypocrisy, because it affected one Rohingyas coming from Myanmar and then were Muslim. Because maybe the perception was that India was a good place. A lot of one would have made a beeline. So they established a law. So it's only Sikhs or Hindus from Afghanistan. So that's how, through a smart law, they disallowed. Otherwise, I think Iran, Pakistan, and India is not far away. It had been one destination. So they never, want to take load of even one Muslim Afghan. So that's where they stand.
Okay.
And that's how the laws are manipulated. Nobody asked them. And I think we should also equate it, the international law, to what's happening in Gaza, where original people are being pushed out through bombs and told to go and get settled in Sinai. So I think it's international law also only respects power, and if the state is putting their foot down,
I
and
understand.
we're trying to basically save our own house, it should be taken in that spirit.
Yeah, and I understand your point, of course, but of course, situations that are worse off in other areas are, of course, nothing that we would want to compare ourselves with. Abid Sab, the situation, when we also take a look, especially in terms of what is going on in Afghanistan right now, and I understand that it may be considered relatively stable than before, but is it really as safe or as peaceful or as stable as one would hope for when one's sending or deporting the illegal Afghan nationals within the country there, and whether or not that is our problem, because I understand what we're establishing here is that Pakistan is looking out for itself and has every right to do so, but at the same time, if this is going to cause problems for the people on ground as they return to their own country, will this be on Pakistan's head in any way? Is it not also, is the onus also not on Pakistani authorities to make sure that whoever is being sent out is not being sent out to a situation which is going to be drastic for them?
Yeah, I would like to answer your question in a literal way, a little indirectly. First of all, I think we have to see that the problem we are all discussing, the problem on the surface, but beneath the veneers, deep down in the skin, there are things which are there, which have to be considered, which are the social aspect of it. The border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. We have to decide that whether it is a border or a frontier. Since centuries, it has been traversed here and there. People going from this side to the other. Villages divided on both sides of the Durand line. The second thing is that the Afghans, since the time we have accepted them as, I would say, the refugees or whatever category, they merged into our society. And this happened, at the first wave happened in 1979, the second happened in 2001. And the latest happened, which Pitafi Saab was saying that, has just mentioned, Brigadier Waqar has also mentioned. No, the third and the latest wave is actually the most vulnerable wave if they are sent back to the Afghanistan. These are the people who were there, who were interpreters, who were working in their media, and the recent wave which have settled in our main cities like Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, and Peshawar. So this is the only segment which has these issues. And number two, the other day I was just going through a book by Annie Jacobson, The Platoon, in which she has defined that how a platoon was just a metaphor for few people. Otherwise, the strength was more than that. That how few American soldiers actually got the biometric data of over 2 million Afghan people, and they used it in tracking the terrorists and controlling the sort of crimes and reducing the threat against the American soldiers and the foot on the ground in Afghanistan. So we could have also done at least the expressive and comprehensive biometric, the iris, the fingerprints, and the other segments of identification of all these Afghans which were there in the camps, all these Afghans, 4.4 million as we say, and 3.7 million if we take the figure of UN. So actually what, deciding, at a very short, span of a time, and then announcing a policy that we understand that was the reason, that was the requirement of the time. But again, this is a very sensitive issue, and this has to be taken in a way, in a manner that it should not become a PR disaster, become a diplomatic sort of a fiasco for our country. It should be managed in a way, and the most difficult thing is the implementation at the third tier of the governance, as Pitafi Saab was saying, that is the local government. By local government, I mean the local administration level. So that is the most difficult part of it, right here also and across border also. We have just made 3 crossing places. One is the Spin Boldak, Chaman, and Torkham. And again, till now, or I think till an hour's back, 2 lakh or more than that people have crossed. So, estimating or calculating a figure and a sort of a goal which we have set of, say, 1.7 million, and then people crossing at a very meager level, and that too, once we have a daily to and fro movement of 60 to 70,000 people coming for their daily course, for their mundane affairs, and then going back, I think the situation is very complex, and it is to be taken, as Pitafi Saab has rightly said, in a way that at least the state and the people of Pakistan should not be, taken in a bad spotlight.
Right, absolutely. Thank you very much, Abid, Latif Saab, for joining us, and thank you very much, Brigadier Waqar, for being part of the discussion as well. We are going to be, of course, exploring this further in Faisal. I want to understand that when we take a look at where we stand today, especially since the withdrawal of the US troops in Afghanistan, and the kind of perhaps influx again that we saw within the country, there was sort of a resurgence in terms of illegal activities within the countries. There was also cause of concern with regards to terrorist activities, and I want to understand, given of course that is the basic premise on which this particular decision has also been taken, how exactly how sure are we in terms of the linkage that exists, and how exactly has this information been collected, and what sort of a surety is there that when we actually sort of go through this entire process, the problem will be resolved?
Yes, and if we talk about how sure we are that the elements, I keep on highlighting about, obviously there are, thousands of people who are involved in illegal activities. There are gangs which are being run, and I'm not saying that all of them, they are gangs, but of course there are, miscreants within them that are pushing Pakistan for this kind of policy. And time after time, of course, all of the investigations which have been taking place in terms of different incidents that took place in Pakistan, somehow down the line, facilitation or the culprits themselves, they were Afghan nationals, and they intentionally don't recognize themselves in Pakistan or enroll themselves in Pakistan, because if they get registered in Pakistan, it would be very hard for them to do these kind of activities in Pakistan. And once, I mean, the border is a huge border, Durand line we're talking about, and it's a huge border. And of course, they somehow get into Pakistan and they are part of these kind of activities within Pakistan, and their lack of registration is a plus to them, and it's easier for them to do all of these activities. And mind you, these kind of activities, this is the sort of running their economy as well, illicit economy. In today's times, terrorism itself is a huge business to them. So this business must be ended now, and this is the only way to end it. And by the way, the illegal immigrants, I mean, if they are having some good businesses here, which they were previously running illegally, they can go back to their country, they can build up a case, get a visa, a business visa or an investment visa to come to Pakistan and invest again, and of course start running their business, whatever they want to do in Pakistan, but legally, not illegally. And earlier Sindhu Saab, obviously he was highlighting that as earlier, of course, Farrukh mentioned, and Farrukh rightly pointed out, that the concern is about the people who left Afghanistan right after Taliban took place this time, and once they entered in other different countries, that is when it has multiplied the problem for Pakistan as well and the other countries. Sindhu Saab was highlighting that the majority of the people who left Afghanistan this time, they were majority of them related to media or these kind of sectors, and they are the ones who actually entered in. By the way, last year I did bit of research about it, and the 15,000, a little more than 15,000 Afghan migrants who are living in India, I mean, they are known. There is a place, Jangpura. Jangpura is a place within New Delhi, which is known for all of these Afghan immigrants who are seeking their chances to get bit of roles in Bollywood or the local sort of sectors of acting and stage acting, and even they seek sort of jobs within the sectors related to media. And it would be quite funny for you to listen to as well. Of course, before Taliban took over, there was something called an agency called NDS, National Directorate of Security, which was all against Pakistan at that time. I mean, I remember Amrullah Saleh was chief of it once, and of course he was all against Pakistan at that time. NDS members, NDS agents, all of these people who were working against Taliban, working against, obviously within Pakistan, they had a lot to do through all of these illegal immigrants at that time as well.
Right.
I mean, they are actually residing in Jangpura, and my source, he given me a few facts about it, that on the tea stalls and on these kind of places, of course they are in India, they boast about whatever they did in Pakistan once. I mean, in 2006 I did this, in 2018 I did that.
Okay.
So these are the people who are in India.
Okay, let me just also come back a little bit to the way that we're actually moving forward with this deportation. Farrukh, I want to understand, you've talked about earlier also in terms of media reports and the kind of news that's coming in, perhaps lacking evidence as well, and other things, and it's obviously creating a perception, and it's whatever the truth may be, it's hard to sort of perhaps navigate through that and the consequence it will be. And I want to understand, including this and any other areas that we're looking at, what is the cost of this happening for Pakistan? I understand the gain that we're getting, but what can potentially be something that
international diplomatic,
we will be paying for, not just in terms of international diplomacy, but any sort of cost that Pakistan would be paying in terms of perhaps how it's viewed, how the perception exists in Afghanistan and other areas, from even within Pakistan, and then also in the way that it's carried out.
Right. Sanaya, as far as popularity in Afghanistan is concerned, for Pakistanis of Pakistan, I think it is time to give up that elusive dream.
Okay.
Afghanistan was the first country and the only country that opposed Pakistan's inclusion in UN in 1947, right? I think that if there was any possibility ever of winning them over, that left us back in 1947. That is not to say that we forget that we are supposed to be compassionate, right? Well, two things that I don't like, and I will not sit here and pretend otherwise. A is broad strokes. But second is, generalization or stereotyping. I will not sit here and tell you that the entirety of Afghan body here in Pakistan is either criminal or somehow supporting criminal enterprises. I'm sorry, I cannot do that.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I will not, legal or illegal. I mean, many people might have actually come because of the worst possible fears that they might have there. We kept on hearing about Hazara and other communities, people who might have been actually persecuted or targeted by Afghan Taliban as well. And also, I will not talk about NDS or such people because many of them went away, they didn't come to Pakistan. On humanitarian ground, I think that Pakistan should be showing a lot of heart, which it has been for past 40 years, right? The ask is simple. Come up with documents and then stay as long as the papers allow you. Documentation is essential, Sana. We are a country that has been asked to do impossible, and yet nobody is there to help us when the hour of crisis comes. I will never call the Afghans who are, believe me, throughout my life, I've been supporting the idea that Afghan children that were born in Pakistan, they should be naturalized. This is my view.
Right.
It can be wrong. But to think that without documentation, any person can stay here indefinitely is wrong.
Right.
And regarding these people, again, this is why I'm saying that there should be a kind of legal recourse. If somebody is really fearful for his life, if they are really afraid that the moment they enter Afghanistan, they are going to be gunned down, there should be some mechanism to safeguard them as well. This is called refuge. But then you have to seek some documentation from within Pakistan, and that's why you have to have this. Regarding international image, honestly, I couldn't care less. The way their hypocrisy has been exposed, first in Kashmir, then in India, then in Gaza, I think that I've lost all hope in international system.
Right, absolutely. And I'm glad you pointed out the option of a recourse as well, because it's important given the fact that, of course, when we say that Pakistan has all the right to look after its own concerns, we also, of course, as Pakistanis are concerned about how these foreign nationals are going to be dealt with. And we hope for humane treatment to be given to them and for this process to be more compassionate, to have the kind of processes that we've outlined in the show today. That's all that we have from the debate. Thank you, Farrukh and Faisal, for always being part of the show. We'll see you tomorrow.